Hi, this is BK for manfowars.com, and I'm promoting polite patriotism to help nice ladies and gents teach kids to be, especially offline, and to help us look, talk, and feel great, and share great online info we find offline as better people making better places to live. So check out manfowars.com as you'd like. But this video is called Warning, Why America Must Militarize Their Border with Canada versus COVID-19. Warning, why America must militarize their border with Canada against COVID-19. Now, I'm a Canadian. I'm in Toronto, and Toronto's getting all cucked up by this COVID crap. But I might be like, what do you do? What do you mean, you goddamn foreigner? Just mind your own goddamn business. Why do you care about America? I understand that. Happy to discuss. One of the things is that the globalists, people that want the UN and World Health Organization and other people running things, the rich people above them, they basically want to replace America with China as the new global role model for the world, right? And so if America falls, the whole world could fall. But if America stays strong, then America can help the whole world, aim for the ideals of a republic with guaranteed rights, freedom, prosperity, and more, right? It's interesting and it's important. And if all of us help America survive, then America can help us survive. So my interest in America is practical, because otherwise there's other threats out there that are worse than America. America's not perfect, nobody's perfect and no place is perfect, but the ideals that America stands for are things that people around the world respect. And by copying the best of what America has to offer, every country in the world can have places with more freedom and prosperity, and so on. So it's important for everyone in the world to understand America's role in this giant fight when it comes to nationalism versus globalism. And fortunately, President Trump has certainly helped with that. I'm gonna take you through why America must militarize their border with Canada versus COVID-19, right? No matter what you think of this, right? We're in it now, right? We're in it now. We're being told to stay at home in the greatest globalist divide and conquer strategy in history. And so we're just shut in and getting more isolated, going more crazy in many cases. Plus, depending on which governments you talk to, they're doing a better or worse job of scaring you and not preparing you, or preparing you and not scaring you, right? And being reasonable about what they're doing. And when it comes to America and the people working for President Trump, I've seen many of his press conferences and so on, and they're very different than the Canadian press conferences with our miserable, weak, lying, bitchy man, Prime Minister Justine Trudeau, and Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland, for example. I just saw one today with Trudeau and Freeland speaking. Trudeau spoke briefly, Freeland spoke, and it was some platitudes mainly. They talked about, reporters asked about America's plans to militarize their border, and they were like, well, the border is very important to cross-border trade. We need medicine. We do a lot of business with America. We need to, I'm like, totally, totally, totally. I totally agree. I don't want to close the border, but I do want to encourage the Americans to militarize the border because they, a lot of times Canadians think, Americans are stupid. It's just sort of brainwashing, right? The reason that we're taught to think that, right? And not all Canadians, but it's sort of a general meme out there. The reason we're taught to think that is so we dismiss and don't pay attention to the best role model in the world to preserve freedom and prosperity, right? So even though Canada is just a few feet or a few miles away from America, many Canadians are taught to dismiss what's going on in America, not learn about it, not go, wait a minute, limited government? Wait a minute, cutting taxes actually increases tax revenue because people spend more money, the economy gets booming, and then the lower tax rate actually takes in more money as a whole, right? We don't learn that stuff in Canada. We're not supposed to. Now, many people these days are on the internets elsewhere trying to figure it out, share it, and so on. But by and large, the Canadian population is told, oh, Americans are stupid or Americans are this and that. And then Americans just think Canadians are nice, right? And it's true. We used to be world famous, nice, polite Canadians. There's been a ton of slippage in that area when it comes to liberal gender neutral, gender equal brainwashing, no more straight up guys, no more graceful women. Men's supposed to be more like women, women's supposed to be more like men. Turn us into commie zombies or compliant corporate clones, easy to control, can't respect each other enough to communicate well, and often won't let anybody, right? Like many liberals can't talk to people they disagree with and won't let you talk. Oh, let's not talk about it. Let's not talk. Oh, let's not this. Let's not that. And so they can't hear different ideas and they can't think. And then they all have to hear and think and say and do the same things. And that's boring. So they're often just quietly uncomfortable near each other or quietly uncomfortable near strangers. And I've got lots of evidence at manforwars.com, HD video, showing that happening. So, so yes, and people can still be nice. It's not like it's not like everyone's, a zombie trying to make another one, but we're getting closer to it. And so that's a real problem. And so and so that's a threat. That's a threat to American national security, where a bunch of people who have trouble talking to each other won't let people talk, and so on. If that type of thing spills over to America, and it goes on there too, right? There's a lot of similarities, right? I look at American news, I look at Canadian news primarily, plus some stuff from around the world, right? Um, and trying to get men to man up, help other men man up, and women and children chill out. Nobody disagrees. Nobody says men should never fight for their country. That's so stupid. In a crisis, men should never do anything. You can say men suck till you got a problem, and then it's great to have them, right? If there are any left who can act like them, then we're good, right? Say men suck, men suck, men suck, and then your toilet's clogged. Oh, thank you for coming. I was so worried. Oh my God. So it's garbage, right? It doesn't make you happier either to think anybody sucks, but that's what the globalist controlled left influencing modern liberals who influence everybody else is doing kind of worldwide, and certainly it's affecting Canadians more than it is most people. And I'll give you an example. So, as I said, we've got our globalist sellout, liberal lying bitchy man PM Justine Trudeau in charge, right? And used to be a former drama teacher. He was a part-time ski instructor, part-time drama teacher. And then he kind of bummed around the world on his daddy's inheritance money. And then he magically got into the Canadian Parliament, Canadian Senate. And then from there, because his dad was prime minister in the 70s and part of the 80s, he had the name recognition. And people, many people are taught to like the senior Trudeau, who was the original Trudeau, although he did a lot of bad stuff too, including not using Canada's own bank. We have a privately owned bank. Unlike the Federal Reserve, Canada has our own central bank, which means we can print money and loan it to federal or provincial/state in America or municipal governments, right? So we don't have to borrow from overseas. But the elder Trudeau did that and launched a bunch of other policies, opened up the borders to too many people at once, destabilized the culture, and so on. So just like the senior Trudeau, who was a good-looking guy, charismatic guy, had some good qualities, and maybe even did some good things, right? I used to like him before I knew better. The junior Trudeau is kind of reflecting that. And he's also another globalist. So to give you an example, while Trump rejected all this stuff, Trudeau signed on to the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is a deal that says, well, this is how we're going to do trade with these countries involved in this deal. And well, you could just trade. Why would you sign the Trans-Pacific Partnership? You could just trade with whatever countries you want and work out bilateral agreements with whoever. It's like, no. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, like other World Trade Organization style agreements as part of globalism, trying to destroy national sovereignty and take over, that locks your countries into that agreement and into an arbitration by the people behind the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So in a nutshell, you no longer control your own trade policy if you sign on to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And Trump said, no way. And Trudeau said, hell yeah. And he says, hell yeah to everything. Because Trudeau doesn't work for the Canadian people anymore. We'll have to do some stuff here and there to kind of confuse us and keep us interesting or interested in whatever. Maybe have some of his supporters have faith in him. But many of his decisions are not on behalf of the people or country of Canada. They are on behalf of globalists who want to destroy Canada, fold it into a world government, just like they want to do with countries around the world, and are using sort of radical left stuff normalized into normal liberalism to do that, right? Trudeau signed on to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Paris Climate Accords, where we're all supposed to worry about carbon dioxide, what we exhale, which is what plants inhale. We trade. Only 4% of the environment doesn't or barely affects the weather, and they get the weather next weekend wrong. They don't have it right for the next 20 years. And it's been proven over and over again, a lot of these overhyped environmental scares. And they basically want to say the Earth's more important than you and whatever, and they want to collect carbon taxes centrally. The United Nations, it's a global problem, need a global solution. Clubofrome.org. Club of Rome came up with it in the 70s. It's like, well, wars are great for clamping down on your own people. It's like, well, we're at war, so clamp down on your own people, restrict your own people's rights as well. As famous Russian dissident Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, wars are always an excuse to crack down on your own people, in his more poetic way, right? So wars are good for national governments getting stronger, people weekly going, please save us from the war we're at. But how do we do, how do we get everyone in the world to subscribe to that philosophy, right? If you have England and France at war, then all the people of England kind of rally around the government, support them regardless, and will give up their rights to survive as a country and as people. And people in France will do the same. But that makes them kind of individually kind of stronger countries. But how do you empower a global government? And the Club of Rome talked about a couple of solutions. One was an alien invasion, where if they fake we're being attacked by aliens, the whole world will rally around some sort of central body to save the planet. But that seems like less likely. There's things like Project Bluebeam and other stuff out there that I've heard of, but I haven't looked into much. But the one they settled on was global warming and or slash climate change. If we all think we're going to be in a fiery inferno in 10 years, then we'll try and get a global government to control everyone in the world. Because if anybody in the world steps out of line when it comes to that, then we could all be dead, right? If that person out there exhales too much carbon, then we could be dead. So shut up, right? And stuff like that. So that was their globalist plan. So that's why Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords, and yet Trudeau signed right on, right? And more on that, but I want to focus on sort of what's at hand right now. Canada signed on to the UN Global Compact for Migration. The UN Global Compact for Migration. This is a recent compact that Trump again said, no way. We're not going to let the United Nations control America's immigration policy. Well, guess what Trudeau did? He said, we are going to let the United Nations control Canada's immigration policy. So bad for Canadians, bad for anybody near Canadians if we let bad people in, right? And that's a real issue. And there's been a lot of, crackdowns on Canadians and quarantines and every day stepping up this sort of state of emergency. And yet the borders are often left open to immigrants coming from the U.S., many often wearing masks. Rebel News has done a great job covering this recently. And they're still allowed in, and people are still allowed in. And there's a bill saying agriculture workers are still allowed in, and so on, as opposed to giving some of those jobs to Canadians, just so companies can pay them less, and so on. So it's crazy what's going on here. Finally, I'll say on this, and there's lots more evidence, but finally I'll say when it comes to this current COVID-19 pandemic, Canada was the first country to pull out of the Olympics and encourage others, right? So that's just an example of how we're a world leader in panicking when it comes to this crisis, as opposed to Trump, who's like, what would be beautiful? It would be beautiful if this was all over by Easter, right? We can't have this crisis and save 100,000 people from the flu and kill 10 million people from a depression, right? We have to be reasonable about this. We want to be as careful as possible. But we can't make the cure worse than the disease. And so Trump does that. Sorry, terrible Trump impression, just spontaneous here. Meanwhile, we have Trudeau, our weak, lying, bitchy man, saying, we know Canadians have it tough, and we are doing everything we can to help Canadians. And we are encouraging all of you to wash your hands and stay at home. And if you don't stay at home, we will crack down on you and make sure you stay at home. Because every time we see somebody outside, we have more evidence that we have to force you to stay at home. Right? That's it. It's not a nuanced conversation about this will be over soon. Here's the facts. It's more about fear, fear, fear. Stay there. And it is what it is. It's a global pandemic. We're all screwed. Don't blame me. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you look at the American conversation, it's much more nuanced with some, experts saying, well, it might be a while, we're not sure, and other experts saying, we got to make sure we don't screw everything up by worrying about the stupid flu, right? They don't even call it a flu anymore. The last one was bird flu, then there was swine flu. This one is the coronavirus. So certainly much more scary. It's just one of many coronaviruses, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, whatever they call it, right? They always give us just as a, briefly, just as a small aside, they, being the they that we worry about, being behind things that we don't like that somehow are in our countries anyway, they always give us two options, right? They give us two choices: Coke, Pepsi, and so on, right? And when it comes to controlling language and so on, they have ISIS, ISIL, Daesh, right? For ISIS, the famous terrorist group. So most people say ISIS. The people in charge say ISIL, Islamic State of Iraq and Levant or whatever it is. And then some people, over the world say Daesh. It's more of sort of a native language type thing as opposed to an acronym. And so, hmm, and so, nice says hi to a neighbor. So my sorry about that, but my point is that they give us these options. So right now it's coronavirus for the masses, COVID-19 for the experts, and we're sort of stuck between that, and it creates a bit of confusion. It also creates a bit of stratification between who's in charge and how they talk about things and the rest of us. So interesting to see there. Now I'll get to another issue that we have that is also going to affect America potentially, and that is like leftist leaders in charge of, say, San Francisco or California or New York, right? We can often see that people in America are fleeing from California. They're going to Texas, they're going to Montana, Idaho, and so on, fleeing from New York, right? Fleeing from liberal-run, leftist-run cities, right? And you might be like, why? Liberals say they care about people the most, and they want to help people the most. So why the hell would you leave liberal-run areas, right? Well, the reason they say that, and they encourage you not to hear anything else, think of anything else, say anything else, or do anything else, so there's no point in even talking, and you're just kind of quiet corporate clones near each other, right? And you won't let anybody else talk, which is also the sort of anti-free speech zombiosis that people are dealing with worldwide to varying degrees, but it's definitely bad in Toronto and other liberal areas where if you go to Oklahoma or something, you might still be able to be straight up with guys and have graceful feminine girls and know how to empower each other and make it easy to talk. But in more liberal areas, it's more, celebrities have talked about how people are just kind of, they don't know how to say hi to them. They just kind of come near them and they're not sure what to do. And sometimes they even follow them around, right? Like I've seen this, so, yeah, celebrity talking about being in California, semi-celebrity, not top end A, but sort of famous comedian or something like that. And he's like, yeah, when I go to California, it's not as cool as being straight up. I travel all over the country. But when I go there, there's people that can't just be like, hey, I love your work, man. Yeah. Oh, thanks so much. I'm glad you're a fan. Have a good day. Or can I get a picture? There's people that just sort of hang out near him and they just kind of walk near him while he's walking and maybe just trying to steal some of that mojo. Zombie wants brains. Zombie makes another zombie if you act zombie back. So, so that's a huge problem. And and um, and in fact, a lot of these leftist leaders just lie about how much they care about people, and they just want more money and control. How do they get more money and control? They let things get worse. The worse things get, the weaker people get, the more messed up the place gets, the more you need a bigger government to deal with that. So that's why San Francisco's, a mess, beautiful city, beautiful part of America, but yet they've got a poop emoji app where you can figure out where the most homeless people poop is when you're walking around San Francisco, and you can avoid it, right? It's like, what the hell? It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. What the hell are you doing, right? I mean, you got to find a better solution than just saying, we love the homeless, so let them poop everywhere and screw everyone. And even they have to step in it. They're probably not happier, right? But they'll do that. They'll let things get worse so that they can get more money and control, right? Because the bigger the problem gets, the more money they need to solve it, and the more control they need to take over it. And it just keeps going and going and going. So that's part of what is happening in Canada. And so there's little spirit of small, limited government and equals more freedom in Canada. And it gets crushed by liberals who won't talk to people they disagree with. They'll think you're a Nazi, racist, phobic. They're given their key word. And if you're like, about Trump, Trump made me so. Actually, you know what? He is the U.S. president. We should be able to at least talk about what he's up to. No, no, la, 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 don't say that. All I want to say is he sucks. He's so evil. He's racist. He's this and that. It's like, no, wait. You can't be a relaxed, rational, calm, and confident liberal who can explain to me your criticisms based on your information of the U.S. president, while I can be on the more conservative side of things and we can discuss. No, no, no. If you even think anything different or say anything different or do anything different, and you're not a compliant commie zombie or corporate clone, then you're a Nazi. It's like, well, then never mind, right? So, so even the patriots in Canada that want to stand up for this stuff have a hell of a time with people that won't even listen, right? They can't talk to people they disagree with, and they can't talk to each other, and they're easy to control. So that's what we're dealing with here. So the next point is, if the U.S. doesn't militarize, right, there may be armies of desperate Canadian liberal zombies, and probably some sensible conservatives as best they can be, who are descending on the U.S. border because they can see the plans for the Canadian government to drag this crisis out. And they're like, I'm heading for the hills. It's like the hills of Canada, maybe. Maybe northern BC is a safer place to be than a big city, obviously, right? If you have the resources to set up shop there, right? But also you could have tons of Canadians going, you know what? I can see where this is going, right? We big crisis, no problem, right? Stuck at home, no problem. Nothing to do but goof around watching old Netflix shows or pay attention to the news, no problem. So, or get active on these things, obviously. But so they're watching the news, and you can see, and you have to at this point. We're all under the government's control right now. We're all the government's bitches right now, right? And so you got to pay attention to it. And if you don't compare the American response, the Trump response, not perfect, but certainly more nuanced and interesting, to what's going on in Canada. If you can compare that, you can be like, why does Trump say, we should get back to work, by Easter, and Canada says we're making plans for the next 6 months or year or 2 years to give everybody welfare, right? A million Canadians have already lost their jobs, right? So if you don't compare and know the difference, then or if you're as a Canadian, you think, all right, that's it. I know better, and I'm out of here. You're going to have armies of Canadian liberal zombies and others descending on the American border and trying to sneak over because they can just read the writing on the wall, right? If you know the ship's going to sink, do you go down with the ship? Do you try and save the ship? Or do you get off the ship, grab a lifeboat, and sneak away as best you can? So that could be an issue. Now, and with respect to that, my hope, finally, is that Trump and other patriots help save Canada from the globalists who want to destroy our country and in the process destroy a country very near America, your country, if you're an American listening to this, not a Canadian. And so it's my hope that America and Americans take this threat to Canada and America more seriously. And we'll leave it there for now. So anyway, BK from manforwars.com. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, get in touch with questions, to work together, financial support, whatever. Otherwise, I do hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.